When I started college, I was thrilled to finally get some independence. My roommate, Jake, was quiet and reserved, but we got along well enough. A couple of months into the semester, though, weird things started happening in our dorm room. Personal items like my toothbrush and notebooks would move places. I figured it was Jake being clumsy or that I was just tired and forgetful. Then one night, I woke up to the sound of whispering. It was Jake, standing next to my bed, mumbling to himself in the dark. I froze, pretending to stay asleep, and he eventually returned to his bed. The next morning, I confronted him, but he brushed it off, claiming I must have dreamt it. I wanted to believe him. The whispering continued for several nights. It always happened at 3 a.m., and his words were unintelligible, like a chant. I started feeling paranoid, staying up late just to catch him in the act. One night, I finally had enough and recorded him on my phone. What I saw chilled me to the bone. Jake wasn't just standing there, he was holding one of my t-shirts, muttering my name over and over again. When I showed him the footage the next day, his face went pale. Without a word, he packed his stuff and left the room. I never saw him again. A few weeks later, I found out through a mutual friend that Jake had a history of mental health issues. Apparently, he'd been off his meds for months. But here's the creepiest part: among his belongings, I found a journal with pages full of my name. I still wonder what could have happened if I hadn't recorded him that night. As a freshman, I took a part-time job in the campus library. My duties were mostly easy: organizing shelves, checking out books, and, occasionally, locking up the building. But one evening, I was asked to grab some old documents from the basement archive. The basement was rumored to be haunted. Students claimed they heard footsteps or saw books fall from the shelves without explanation. I never believed in ghosts, so I volunteered to go down there alone. The moment I stepped into the basement, the temperature dropped. I laughed it off, thinking it was just poor ventilation. As I searched the shelves, I heard a faint scratching noise coming from one of the corners. When I shined my flashlight, there was nothing there, just a stack of dusty books. But as soon as I turned my back, the scratching started again. I felt a chill creep up my spine. It sounded like something, or someone, was dragging their nails along the concrete walls. I forced myself to stay calm, grabbed the documents, and hurried to the exit. But just as I reached the staircase, the basement door slammed shut. I panicked and yanked at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Then I heard a whisper, close to my ear, "Get out." I bolted, pounding on the door until one of my coworkers heard me and let me out. I told my manager what happened, but she just gave me a knowing smile. "The door sometimes sticks," she said. "It's an old building." But that didn't explain the whisper. I quit the job the next day. I still can't walk past the library without getting goosebumps. It was my sophomore year when I moved into an off-campus apartment with two friends, Mike and Sarah. The building was old, with creaky floors and weird electrical issues, but the rent was cheap, and we didn't mind. A few nights after moving in, strange things started happening. Doors would open on their own, lights flickered constantly, and we'd hear faint knocking on the walls. At first, we joked about it, blaming it on the building's age. But things took a dark turn when Sarah started having nightmares, violent ones, where she felt like something was watching her from the corner of the room. One night, Mike woke up to find Sarah standing in the kitchen, staring at the fridge with a blank expression. When he asked what she was doing, she just mumbled, "He's hungry." The next morning, she had no memory of it. We tried to laugh it off, but the atmosphere in the apartment grew heavier each day. Then one evening, while we were watching TV, the lights went out. We grabbed our phones to use as flashlights, but before we could even stand, we heard it, a deep, guttural growl coming from the hallway. We froze, terrified. The growling grew louder, and the door to Sarah's room slammed shut with a force that shook the walls. She screamed from inside, and we ran to help her. When we finally pried the door open, she was curled up in the corner, sobbing. The next day, we brought in a priest to bless the apartment. After the blessing, the strange activity stopped, but Sarah moved out shortly after. Mike and I stayed, but we never felt comfortable there again. To this day, I wonder what we invited into our home and if it ever really left.